Sorry, I hit recording just a couple minutes too late. But
just say all that again.
I know,
I'm just kidding.
Melissa was just sharing with us. She's been encouraging her clients to go public with their journey and post on social media, tag you, or post that you get to post their story. And I think that that is so brilliant. And I think that that is, again, we want to continue for all of our clients to positively influence their surroundings so that it's so hard to move backwards. And so the biggest goal for us is to build that healthy community, that healthy tribe around them. And so whether that's going to be, they decide to pay it forward and help those people themselves, which a lot of times doing a public post like that can really awaken that desire in somebody, because all of a sudden you can count, like, go back to it and say, oh my gosh, like, can you believe how many people are commenting and encouraged by that post?
Yeah.
Like, would you like to serve them and support them? A lot of them are going to be reaching out to you for the questions anyway. So you could be compensated for your time, or, what do you feel most comfortable moving forward? Would you want to explore that option? And a lot of people will be awakened to look at coaching and at least explore it, see if that window's open with a post like that. If they're not, like what Melissa was saying, it is great for providing referrals for you as the coach. But again, bigger than that, we want to continue to surround them with support and encouragement. And so that is really great, Melissa. I'm so excited that you've been having some success with that. So again, I know we're a couple of minutes late in hitting the record button, but let me go ahead and just kind of pause for some of the newer coaches that are joining us. We are so excited to come together on this Monday night. It's transitioned. It was a coach huddle or a client huddle, healthy huddle, and we're transitioning it now to be more of coach support, because we have seen so many of you being the ones very consistent in engaging in this. And so we really want to be there to continue to spur you on, continue to build that camaraderie to where you guys really truly understand that we are one team with one mission. And this mission kind of speaks for itself, but it does not speak without you all, like, doing your part. And so that's where we're so excited to continue to pour into you guys, as you're all amazing, amazing leaders already, or emerging as the new leaders within Optavia, within your communities, within your families. And so we just really want to kind of continue to set that tone, and hopefully give you some value to keep you moving forward as well. And so, did you want to add anything?
Later.
Okay.
Later. So do you want to, like, present what we could talk about, do we want people to go into their Go Global experiences? Or
well, I know we have several that are going to be joining in later. So again, many of us, if you don't know, just got back from Orlando, where we had an amazing Go Global event. And we're going to continue to try as much as we can to bring that experience back to you, even though it is nearly impossible to do that. For everybody that was there can pretty much attest to that there's nothing that compares to the energy, the enthusiasm, that camaraderie that I was talking about.
Yeah, when you're in a
being
room,
at an event.
Yeah, 1,400 people versus, what do we have on here? 8, 6, something like that. So 12. Sorry, underestimating. It's good, right? It's good energy, but 1,400 people, there's a lot of energy in the room, and you can feel it. You can feel it. So
yeah. And so it's great to always come back with that new awakening, those new tools and tangible ways to continue moving your coaching practice forward. And again, so many of us are going to attempt to do that as best we can. But I would also consider for yourselves marking your calendar, if you have not already, for convention in July. It's going to be in St. Louis, so it's going to be a ton of fun. And we're going to have, great large team there, but then it's also going to be that bigger collective mass of people. So mark your calendars if you haven't already. That's going to be great.
Southwest unveiled a direct flight to St. Louis from Sacramento. Not everybody on this is from Sacramento, but there's a fair amount of people. So look at that if you can. A direct flight's usually really good. Yeah.
So, well, awesome. And then our other desire for our Monday nights is, many of us, we start off in coaching because we're wanting the accountability for ourselves as well. And so then we start moving forward with clients, and that is amazing to provide some accountability, but we don't always necessarily have that other space to just continue to pour in for our own health sake too.
Right.
So we also just want to provide a space for our own health accountability to keep us all really spurred on and encouraged and moving forward in that as well.
Right. And you probably heard, if you were at the conventions or even any of the trainings or the boot camps, a lot of our business goals start with health goals, like our personal health goals. Most of the speakers talk about that as a business goal, because if you're not in action in that regard too, it's harder to get into action in other ways. And sometimes it boils down to like the integrity piece. Megan and I talked about that today, like wanting to have the integrity of like, we're living this out. We are going to the gym if that's the stage that you're in and everything. And so we want to definitely have a time like Megan was saying to be accountable still on our health goals. And we are business coaches, but we're also still health coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of which, Carolyn, I saw you earlier, and that all that your hard work is paying off, girl, because you're getting ripped. So just a shout out to you. Awesome. But and then going back to our Go Global, we're gonna probably have like one or two coaches that were there at Go Global kind of pop on our consecutive Mondays here to share a takeaway that they learned, something that stood out. That's benefiting their business, but that will also end up carrying over and rippling over to yours as well. Christina, do you mind popping off and sharing with us?
There we go. Sorry about that.
No, you're
yeah, so there were a couple things. It was phenomenal, but there were a couple things that really just stuck out to me personally. One of which was going to be the fact that this is a business of people. And that something that I have struggled with and there was just reminded of was that we are the most unpredictable species on the planet. And as health coaches, we actually get the ability and the gift to work with one another, which is super awesome. But then when they were talking about skills for masterful coaching, that was one of the sorry, I'm just getting to my notes. My fault. One of the things that really stuck out to me was the ask versus tell, and really just how to integrate your clients into the community and the importance of that, in addition to the like the client community and all of that, but then asking them permission to kind of speak into their life and speak into their health. And then being structured with your time. One of the interesting things that Megan had said, and it was something that I had implemented in my practice, was as far as like being structured with my time. When I start a coach call, I no longer say like, oh, how was your week? It's not that I don't care, but I'm specifically asking about their health. And regardless of if it's Aunt Susie or Joe Blow from Montana that I don't actually know, I am just calling for a 7 to 15 minute conversation about their health that week. And so it's okay to just be more specific about that. And that our job is to empower people rather than enable people. I find that a lot of the time I was kind of like, oh, well, it's okay, you know, like trying not to be judgy. If somebody, you know, was like, oh my gosh, I woke up smothered in cookie crumbs or whatever the issue is, you know, kind of like reverting them back and being like, okay, like let's get back on the straight and narrow, and like, here's your goals. This is what you had said that you wanted, and really empowering them rather than enabling and kind of feeding into that mindset of they might be like helpless in this situation. And so really just trying to empower them. And they really just put emphasis on like the active listening piece, which I thought was really cool, because it's so easy, especially if we're not being structured with our own time when we're doing our health coach calls, to just be pulled in many different directions. And so really just being focused on like, what is it that the client is wanting? How do we move forward? And like making that 7 to 10 minutes about them and then moving forward. So all of that was really helpful as far as like my own business structure and then how to have a better impact on my clients. So
that's awesome, Christina. Something that stood out is, yeah, if you haven't heard me share this before, learn from my lesson, because I was the coach that started off and ended up somehow putting myself more into like the counselor role, which was not empowering whatsoever. And it was very enabling in many ways. And it was very draining because I was spending sometimes like 45 minutes on a client call that should have taken 5 to like like Christina said, about 5 to 15 minutes. So something that I have really learned to continue to hone in on my time, and for their time's sake too, because if you're spending that long on the phone with many of them, you'll find over the weeks that they won't pick up because they don't have that kind of time anyways. So if you can let them know, my coaching day is, if it's Monday, my coaching day is Monday from this time to this time. So you can expect a phone call from me. When I call during that time, I'm going to have my coaching hat on, because many of us, obviously, we're serving our family, we're serving our friends, or different, people that we're really, really close to. But if you can posture it from the beginning that when I call during that time, I'm going to have my coaching hat on. So I'm going to be asking, how was your week on program? What are you learning from the habits of health? Yeah. What are you learning from our weekly support calls? What new thing, have you, what new habit are you building in, and what are you looking forward to this next week? But that way, again, if you're posturing it on the front end, that's not your call to like check up and see how, like you said, the whole week went for them, or to just spend that whole time socializing. You have a structure, and and then the nice thing with doing that and having some more structure and letting them know the expectations and that you'll have your coach hat on during that call, a lot more people will see that coaching is fun and easy and duplicatable, and that it doesn't have to be that 30-45 minute phone call, that it can be something that they could do, that they could see themselves doing as well.
Mm-hmm. You answered Marjorie's question about what kind of things do you say initially to kind of steer the call into health only?
Exactly. So usually my questions are, how was your week on program? What are we celebrating? What did you learn from the Habits of Health book or workbook, or from one of our support calls? Because again, the nice thing is the more that you're continually asking them some of those same questions too, all of a sudden that repetition is going to be like, oh, the book is important. Oh, those support calls are important. I should listen to one. Yes. So that I don't have to say I didn't listen or I didn't do anything for another like 3 weeks. So the more you can kind of point them back in that direction too, that's the empowerment versus the enabling. And sometimes you can even say like, this is self-paced, so you go at your own, but if you even just read a paragraph a day, a page a day, if you do one question out of the workbook, you're then building in those micro habits that will have a lot bigger impact in the long run. Mm-hmm. So again, those are some, what else do I usually say? What would be a home run for you this next week? Mm-hmm. What are you excited to be building in?
Especially if there's a hang up that they've run into last week. Like, how are we going to make this, how is it going to go next week? When you run into the same problem. And
exactly. Another question I love to ask is, who's noticing? Because usually people will start to observe and make note, and they're saying, okay, you're shrinking. Like, what are you doing? And they're going to be knocking down your door. And what are you going to tell them? You're going to say, I'm working with a coach and an optimal health program. I would love to have a friend to join me in this journey. Are you interested for yourself or for somebody else? Because usually when people are starting to notice, it's either that they're hungry for that themselves, or they have somebody in their life that really needs to improve their health. Yeah. And so that way you can then even start to layer that coaching with them as well. And sometimes it's another question you can ask in layering that as well, as who in your day-to-day life would it make it so much easier for you to be successful on program if they were doing it with you? And so that way too, if you get to build upon that referral, or you get to build upon, what would it look like? How would you feel if you were the one celebrating each week with them? Mm-hmm. And so that way you can just continue to awaken that desire and awaken that passion. And then from going back again, kind of circling to Go Global, one of the biggest things that stood out to me was Dan Valentine. If you've not listened to some of his trainings, he's run a lot of our boot camps and different things like that. But I loved his presentation, because he was really just talking about how people out in our world, they are hungry for more. And you can recognize it. You probably have all seen it from sharing before and afters, or even in looking at your own before and after. You can see it in somebody's eyes that they just have this desire for more. And they might be smiling. I know in my before, like, I have a smile on my face, but you can just see that, don't let me stay here. Like, I'm not fully content with where I'm at right now, and I want more. And so I would say for you all, and that's what the question I've been asking myself every single day that I've been waking up is, show me whose eyes I need to see the truth in today. Like, show me who's looking for more, because that's the gift that we hold in our hands. And again, we're not looking to try to profile people based on what they look like.
Yeah, he showed pictures of some of the top leaders and in their before phases, right? And it was so revealing because it's just like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have approached that person,
Right.
and yet they didn't know that they had it in them either, right? So they've become these people. And if we're looking for the people who are like Jamil and like Becca and like Dan Valentine and all that stuff, now we're not going to find who we're looking for because they've yet to be found.
Exactly. And that's because I think that was one of his points, was that so many of us, when we're thinking about that we want to continue to further this mission and we want to really make a bigger impact in our world, in our society, we're thinking, oh my gosh, like if only I could have a Gina Eccles on my team, or only if I could have a Becca Tinter, if I could have, Susan Labette, all these people that I just completely admire and respect. But again, that's what they were saying is they didn't start there. And again, if you look back to any of your before and afters too, I think you can recognize that, and then continually look at the before and afters that you're sharing on your own wall as well. And if you're not doing those, that will be a great way to awaken people. But just notice that hunger in their eyes. And so that's what you're looking for again when we are wanting to offer this gift. And that's I was chatting with Debbie, I don't know if she's on here or not, Debbie Grill, earlier today. And she was just saying like her blinders are off and she is now looking out at her community and just seeing through those trilogy lenses of that healthy body, healthy mind, healthy finances, that everybody needs what we have. And so she's now not seeing this in terms of that weight loss anymore, because that's one of the biggest mindset shifts that we have to work through, guys, is in seeing how can we meet the needs, like meet people where they're at. And many of them are truly desiring to have a healthy, thriving community. They're desiring to have more purpose and more passion. I know I was so isolated and so alone and just wanted something bigger for my life. But I also did have that, weight loss need. But there's many people out there that they're in a trim, healthy body, but they are lacking in that purpose. They're lacking in that passion, or a lot of people are really, really struggling in their finances.
Yeah. If you're in relationship with these people, you'll know it. I don't know if anybody feels that way. I do when I see habits and everything, but then the trust builds, and then I see their vulnerability. They'll be real with me, and I'll see a change, and I'll see I don't know if it's sadness or whatever, but longing for something else. And then it's like, oh, okay. And a lot of times in my head, I'm like, they're rock solid. They have all of these things in a row. They're organized and stuff like that. But then you're in relationship with them, and it just kind of comes out just in the context of being a friend or something like that. And you see and you go, oh, there's so much more. There's so much more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing for many of us too. I mean, we're looking to build a healthy coaching practice. But one of the things that Dan said as well that I really admire and appreciate too, we're not chasing the rank. We're not chasing the recognition. And if you are, sometimes shifting that focus to really be chasing after people and pursuing people. And then those things will actually end up chasing you. But our focus is on the people and on serving them and moving them forward in life. And then I was going to say another couple of things from one of the social media. What's that?
Okay.
From the social media workshop that I thought really stood out was using social media to help you even discover your voice. I know even for me, I was a total introvert when I first started coaching.
If you can believe it. Now you're on Facebook and
blowing it up, right? But I was a real introvert. It helped me discover my voice. It helped me discover some of the things that I really was passionate about, that I did really want to pursue. And it helped me, especially for being kind of stuck at home because I had such littles. It just gave me kind of a platform to, at any given moment, plug into the globe, like plug into the world. And that's what I think is so fun about it, is that you really can reach and connect with people from all over. And if you have not heard, Optavia is continuing, it's going to be expanding to Singapore and Hong Kong, which is so exciting. And so I don't know, we were talking about your reticular activating system, and all of a sudden it goes into overdrive of like just recognizing people all over. And I've been at the gym every day and I'm like, man, I thought this was like a predominantly like Caucasian area, and it is not. So there's just, again, you can activate your own RAS for so many things. And I think the biggest one that you can start to do for yourself this week is to start seeing, again, take those blinders off and see people for the trilogy needs that they have. not only their weight loss needs, because yes, that's a one component of our program. That is only one component of all that we offer. And the other big thing with the social media is considering, who are you following right now? What do their posts make you feel like? And how can you then start to incorporate some of those things for yourself? Because it's usually then it's something that people are offering value. They're just living their life out loud and right. Yes, I wasn't a total introvert. But they
you still are. You just know how to turn it on, and yeah, you're doing a really good job of working through and just seeing your worth and then helping people, and then you're just completely in love with that, and so yeah, that's what draws you out. That's what I'm noticing.
Thank you. Yeah. But it draws other people out too. The more that you just get to, again, seek to offer value within our culture, within our world. Because there's a lot of people that they're plugging into social media because they're feeling lonely. They're plugging into social media because they need to feel some connection. They need to laugh. They need to be inspired. They need to be encouraged. And so how can you go out and be that for them? And so a lot of the things, though, that I'm always continuing to hear that stops people from sharing either the before and afters or the recipes, or just really starting to kind of brand yourself as a coach is that fear of rejection. What will people think of me? Am I annoying people? Is it too time consuming? And so what I love is to start breaking down some of those again with the fact of how can you start to offer value. And so one of the things that they were talking about in that workshop was the law of the magnet. And so I think that just knowing the law of the magnet kind of breaks down some of those concepts of am I annoying? Am I, posting too much? Will people, still like me and respect me? But the more that you can continually be your most authentic self within social media, especially, you're going to have that law of the magnet start to play out, where the magnet, right, has two ends. So you're either going to start to repel some people that are not like-minded, that are not going to be pursuing this, but that's okay, because are they really your people anyways then, if they're repelled by you being you, and by you being authentic, and by you being, inspiring them with some of those testimonials and before and afters. But then you're also going to have on the other side of that magnet, it's that law of attraction. And so people that are like-minded will be attracted. And those are the people you're going to want to really kind of surround yourself with as well as you're moving forward in your own health, as you're moving forward in building your coaching practice. So just being bold in that law of, you might have some people unfriend you. I know I've had a couple over the years, but in all honesty, my Facebook is a lot less dramatic now that they are not a part of it. And it's not obviously that we desire to repel people, but it will kind of just naturally happen the more that you're your truest self, your most authentic self. And so the other great thing is when you're sharing those before and afters, when you are sharing those testimonies, you're going to just continue to build that credibility for yourself. You're going to be continuing to, again, for yourself, I think it's activating that RAS, because you're going to recognize people in your world that are also in that similar situation, in that similar boat, and you now will get to hopefully help awaken that in them. And I would say the other big thing to really kind of get clearer on what you're going to be sharing on social media is kind of developing that personal mission statement of what do you want to be representing. Right.
And that kind of segues into my takeaways from Doug's Saturday morning, I think it was, where I feel like what Megan's talking about and everything is that, like, before you post, there's a lot of noise, right? And there's a lot of noise in my head, and I don't know what's like going to lead me to more action and encourage me to post, or what's going to derail all of that. And in the past, I've just gotten derailed and going, oh, I need to figure this out. And so that's what she's saying, having a mission statement, knowing your cause, because I tell you what, the chatter doesn't stop, but it gives me the rebuttal. So a lot of this that Doug was talking about on Saturday morning really helped me ask myself questions in that moment and go, am I really about this? And so some of the questions he said, like, are you doing this? What's stopping you? Who's stopping you? Am I questioning the path? Is Optavia too good to be true? All these kinds of questions that you kind of ask yourself in that. And then you kind of go into, well, what's the risk? What's the cost if I do this? Well, the cost isn't necessarily isn't good, right? It's that I'm not doing the service. I'm not helping people see. I'm not living congruently, I guess, is that I'm proud that I've gotten to the point that I'm at, and I just want to share that. I'm not telling anybody else to do it and all these kinds of things. I'm not making them. I'm just putting it out there. And like I've heard from a lot of your pages and a lot of the clients that that go to your page and go to like Carol Hips or something like that, they say, I feel inspired. And so they don't necessarily, like it or comment or whatever, but it still brings inspiration. And so I don't do it because I get the responses. I like the responses, but I do it because I know it's going to help them in the end. And so I'm very clear on why I'm doing it. That's your mission statement that you're talking about. Who wins if I do it? Everybody wins. I win. My kids win. Megan wins. The clients win. The community wins, even if they don't become clients. And who loses if I don't? Everybody loses. Really. So, I mean, there's a lot of these questions in the moment where you're freaking out about how people might perceive you if that's the way you go, or I don't know what to post. It's not as good as I want it to be. It's not, it's not quite as clear as I need it to be. I don't know. Everybody loses if you don't do it. So just try. And Facebook's forgiving, especially if you have friends, that right? So other questions other things that made it clearer for me were, he talked about investing in yourself. And that really boils down to your health too, right? Keeping your health journey going. If you stop at some point and you're not pouring into yourself, then there's very little to pour into others, right? So this is a job both Megan and I have been in some sort of form of healthcare since we were both 19 years old. You give and give and give all day long. At the end of the day, you don't have anything. And if you have kids and all that kind of thing, you're giving. You need to do something in order to fill back up again. And so health is that. The Habits of Health calls are like that. You are getting somebody to pour into you, or you find something that intrinsically rewards you. That's something that you need to pay attention to. Like, I get plugged in. I feel energized when I do this. It's not usually sleep. Sometimes people want to sleep, but that doesn't necessarily bring you more energy in the long run, especially if you're already sleeping enough. If you're not sleeping enough, go to bed. But just, you know what I mean? So knowing what turns you on, what gets you going, and then doing that on a regular basis. And Doug kind of wrote, I'm looking at the slides here, like, say yes to you, basically. That's it in a nutshell. And we're all health coaches, but we're all looking to be fully integrated business coaches, and then ultimately fully integrated business leaders. And that's a habit that I've seen consistently throughout all of them. They always are not saying no to everybody. They're saying no to some things, but they're doing things for themselves so that they can get recharged. One of the biggest things that you get to in the medical community is burnout. They burn out quickly. We call it compassion fatigue. I know Eric Tring, who's not on here, he's a fireman. He was talking about compassion fatigue. Street slang is jaded. You just get really upset and you think everybody's got the worst possible, scenario or something like that that's coming at you. You're just thinking about how you're going to protect yourself, and that doesn't go well usually in this. Am I willing to be relentless for this cause? So once you figure out a cause, getting really clear on why you're doing it. And that way, if the chatter comes from your own head, you can quiet it. If the chatter comes from Facebook, you can quiet it, because a lot of people don't have the right idea of what you're trying to do. And sometimes too, that adversity sharpens your sword, right? Sharpens your resolve. And so that's just something to think about. You get out there and it's going to be challenging, but that's what we're about. We're about getting uncomfortable. If you think of going into the gym, if you go to the gym and you do things that make you comfortable, you're probably not going to grow, right? And this is another arena. It's not the gym, but if you are pushing yourself and there's some restrictions or some resistance, that's usually going to help you grow. And you got to figure out a way to get around it and do things, and it sharpens your resolve. You work these muscles that help you post on a regular basis, start conversations regardless of if nobody's calling you back. You're doing it because this is what you believe to do, not because people are liking it or people aren't liking this, or because that's fickle, right? You'll never, I don't know how far you'll get, doing it for others, I guess, in that sense. So Yeah. I loved his talk, and Doug and I have a relationship. And so that's kind of where we're always at, where it's like questions and kind of like, okay, I hear you, but do it anyway. That's sort of where we go. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I wanted to give Brandon kind of a shout out. I know that I am usually more of the face or the voice sometimes, but I also want to let him really, and all of you know that I do a lot of the celebration calls and the meet and greets and Coach Explores, but he is also always available for those as well, particularly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Right. So just know that you can utilize both of us. And so our, again, greatest desire for all of you is to, learn from how we've grown and how we've developed. And we are definitely, continually like works in progress. And we have changed a ton over the last 4 years of coaching. And so our greatest desire for all of you is to build really long-lasting, sustainable businesses where you're taking exceptional care of yourself and really giving yourself that gift of optimal health, but also passing that on to other people. And so we want to just, again, try to give you as many best practices that we've discovered over the years to really continue to help coaching be fun, help it be simple, help it be duplicatable. Because again, if we all need to kind of continually circle up, if it's not feeling fun, if it's feeling heavy or burdensome, something's off and we need to shift and make that course correction. Because when we run things like frantic or unsatisfied, like it's not going to attract people. That's that law of the magnet. That's going to repel, right? We want to be that attraction side of the magnet to bring in those other like-minded people and to let them see a space for themselves and a voice for themselves too. So we'll kind of end on that note, but we are also going to just stay here if anybody had a quick question. Otherwise, we'll see you guys back next Monday at 5:30.
See where you can fit in more pursuing more of your health, and that's physical health and nutrition and all the stuff that we know, but it's also personal growth as well. Reading books, podcast stuff, and the Habits of Health call fits into that. The leadership call fits into that, where you're growing personally too.
Yeah. Well, it was great spending a little bit of our Monday night with you all, and we're so excited to just continue this. So feel free to pop in our thread on Team Rena page if there are other specific topics that you would love to learn about, or if there's maybe some kind of, again, a tweak that you're wanting to make within your coaching practice. We're happy to share. So have a great night, everybody.
See you. Enjoy your dinners.
Yeah.